All right, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going exploring the kind of tricky world of digital creations. The legal and ethical stuff, things that honestly every single person who uses a computer should probably understand a little bit better.
Absolutely. It's something that we all kind of run into, whether we realize it or not.
Exactly. And to help us unpack all of this, we're going to be taking a close look at a transcript from a Code Curious YouTube video. It features Angelina Dominguez, and she's an AP Computer Science principles teacher, so, right in the thick of this stuff.
Yeah, dealing with these issues every day in the classroom.
So our goal today, and the reason we chose this particular source, is to really help give you, the listener, a better grasp of what's called intellectual property, or IP, and how to navigate the digital world in a way that, keeps you on the right side of the law, but is also, ethically sound.
Yeah, I think that's crucial, right? It's not just about, avoiding getting sued or something, but also about being a responsible citizen of the digital world.
100%. So first things first, we got to start with the basics. What exactly is intellectual property? I mean, I hear the term thrown around all the time, but what does it actually mean in real world terms?
Well, think of it like this. Intellectual property, or IP, is basically anything that you create with your mind. In the transcript, Angelina Dominguez, she explains that this can include inventions, like gadgets and gizmos. It can include artistic works like songs or paintings. It can even include designs, symbols, names like brand names or images. So basically, if you came up with it, it's probably your IP.
Okay, so even if I just doodle something in my notebook, or I come up with a catchy phrase for something, that's automatically mine. That's my intellectual property.
Huh? Yep, that's right. As soon as you express those ideas in a tangible form, they're yours. And as the transcript points out, the digital age has it's made this whole IP thing way more important, right? Because it's so easy to copy and share and modify things online. That ease of access, it's amazing, but it also creates a whole bunch of questions about, who owns what and how we can use things responsibly.
Yeah, because it's so easy to just copy and paste stuff, people might forget that there are rules, right? You can't just take whatever you want.
Wait, which brings us to copyright.
Exactly. Copyright is the legal protection that your work gets automatically as soon as you create it. It's like a default setting, all rights reserved. And this essentially gives you the exclusive right to control how your work is used. Others can't just use it without your permission.
So what happens if someone does use my work without asking? That's when we're talking about plagiarism, right? Right, exactly. Like the video mentions, plagiarism is when you take someone else's work and pass it off as your own without giving them credit. And this isn't just bad manners. In certain situations, it can have real legal consequences. Think about academic settings, for example, or professional fields where originality is super important.
Right, yeah, you can get kicked out of school or even lose your job for that kind of thing. So we've talked about how to protect our own creations, but what about all the cool stuff that other people have made? Do we always have to track down the creator and get their permission before we can use anything?
No, not always. And this is where things get really interesting, because there are actually some really smart ways that creators can give others permission to use their work without, having to be contacted every single time. The transcript talks about Creative Commons, open source, and open access as three key examples of this. And let's start with Creative Commons.
Okay, so Creative Commons, the basic idea is that some creators might actually want their work to be shared more freely. It's not always about being super restrictive.
Exactly, yeah. Traditional copyright with its, all rights reserved stance can be pretty limiting. Sometimes creators actually want their work to reach a wider audience. They might be totally fine with people sharing it, maybe even adapting it, without having to ask permission each time. Think of a musician who wants their music to be used in indie films, or a photographer who wants bloggers to use their photos. It just makes things so much easier for everyone involved.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So how does Creative Commons actually work in practice? I mean, is it just like a free-for-all, anything goes?
No, not at all. It's actually a very well-defined system. Creators can choose exactly which rights they want to keep and which ones they want to give to the public. The transcript mentions that you can go to the Creative Commons website, answer a few simple questions about how you want people to use your work. Can they use it commercially? Can they modify it? And then, based on your answers, you get a license that clearly spells out those permissions.
Oh, so it's you get to customize your copyright. You choose exactly what kind of permissions you want to give.
That's it. It's like a menu of options. You pick what you want. And the great thing about these licenses is that they make it crystal clear to everyone how the work can and cannot be used. It's a really elegant way of adapting copyright for the digital age, encouraging sharing and collaboration while still protecting the creator's rights. And you see these licenses all over the place now on images, educational resources, all sorts of things.
Super practical. Okay, let's talk about open source. That's mostly a software thing, right?
You see it most often with software, yeah. Open source software is basically software that anyone can use for free. But what makes it really unique is that it's not just about free use. Modification and redistribution are not only allowed, they're actually encouraged. The whole idea is to build a community around the software with everyone working together to improve it.
So it's kind of like the creators are saying, hey, here's the blueprint, go ahead, build on it, make it better, and then share your improvements with everyone.
Exactly. It's a super community-oriented approach, and it's led to some really successful and popular technologies that we all use. And then we have open access, which focuses more on research and scholarship.
Okay, open access. So this is all about making research freely available, right? Like no paywalls or subscription fees.
That's right. The transcript defines open access as the practice of making research output available online without any cost barriers, without access restrictions like paywalls, and even without many of the usual copyright and licensing restrictions. It's all about democratizing access to knowledge, making sure that everyone can benefit from the latest research.
So if I find a research paper that's open access, I can pretty much read it, use parts of it in my own work, all without paying a fee or having to jump through hoops.
Yeah, that's the general idea. But here's the thing. Even when you're using material that's legally available through Creative Commons, open source, or open access, there's one super important principle you should always remember.
I'm guessing you're going to say citation?
You got it. Always, always cite your sources and give credit to the original creators. The transcript emphasizes this. It's fundamental to ethical scholarship and just being a responsible digital citizen.
100%. Okay, so all this easier access to information is amazing, but it also raises some tricky legal questions, right?
It definitely does. The transcript touches on this too, pointing out that while these open models are great for sharing and collaboration, they can also lead to some legal complexities.
Like what kind of legal issues come up with all this digital access?
Well, the transcript mentions software that's specifically designed to allow people to download or stream copyrighted stuff without permission, like movies or music. That's a big no-no, even if the software itself uses open source components. And then there's the whole area of devices that constantly monitor and analyze our digital activity, which brings up a whole bunch of questions about privacy and surveillance, which have huge legal implications.
So the technology itself might be neutral, but how people use it can get them into legal hot water.
Exactly. It all comes down to intent and how the technology is actually being applied.
Man, we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about what intellectual property is, how copyright works to protect it, and then all these cool ways to use other people's work legally, like Creative Commons, open source, and open access. And then we even touched on some of the legal headaches that can come with all this easy access.
It's a complicated landscape, that's for sure. Full of opportunities, but it really requires us to be informed and responsible.
Well, you've been a huge help in navigating these murky waters. So for our last thought today, and something I want to leave our listeners with, think about how easily digital creations can be shared and accessed these days. What are some of the most important things that you think people need to understand to be, responsible and legally savvy digital citizens in this environment? It's something we all need to think about as we navigate this ever-changing digital world. And with that, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing conversation we all need to be a part of.
Until next time.
See you then.